They discovered a shocking secret: God's blessings unleashed when they put him first. Few knew what truly happened that night in the desolate wilderness. Beneath the cold, unyielding stars, a group of exhausted travelers fought against their hunger, their spirits flickering like dying embers. They were wandering souls, desperate for hope, oblivious to the unseen force that was about to shake their reality. Whispers of a prophet reached their ears, tales of miracles that seemed as unfathomable as the depths of the night sky. They beckoned for divine intervention, hearts pounding with the desperate wish for salvation. Suddenly, the ground trembled. A voice, commanding yet soothing, floated through the air, resonating against the dark cliffs surrounding them. It was a call they had not anticipated, a beckoning that ignited something deep within. He was Moses, chosen to lead, bearing a message that defied belief. His eyes sparkled with an otherworldly light as he held forth a simple, yet unimaginable command: put God first, and you shall see wonders. Around the flickering campfire, faces flickered from shadow to light. Surprise and doubt mingled on their brows, as they recalled the barren land that bore nothing but hardship. Could an unseen power really pour forth blessings into their empty hands? Questions bubbled, along with cautious hope. What was the secret behind such impossible claims? Soon, tensions erupted like thunder overhead. Some scoffed, voices rising among the dusty air: what has faith ever brought us? We'll starve before we bow to this unseen force. Others, however, watched Moses with eyes glistening, their hearts ignited by fervor, whispering prayers to the heavens. A heavy silence fell as Moses raised a humble staff, the air crackling with anticipation. The sacred connection between their struggles and the divine opened like a doorway, revealing truths they had never known. Would they dare to take the leap of faith? Would they defy the odds laid out before them? A shiver ran down their spines, caught between the fear of failure and the spark of hope igniting their souls. The darkness seemed to thicken, hanging heavy with unanswered questions. What would happen if they truly surrendered, if they put God's promise to the test? As the stars twinkled above, a decision loomed like an approaching storm. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the night wore on, the air thick with uncertainty, Moses stood firm like a mountain in the midst of their tempest. The flickering flames cast shadows that danced like spirits, illuminating the faces of the weary travelers, believers and doubters alike. A palpable tension hung in the silence, the very fabric of their decisions woven with the threads of trust and skepticism. In that moment of stillness, one voice broke through, soft yet resolute. An elder from the back, with deeply crinkled skin that told tales of long hardship, stepped forward. Moses, he began, the name reverberating like a chant, we have wandered far from our homes, our children, our sustenance. You speak of wonders, but tell us, what proof do we have that God will not cast us aside as he has before? His skepticism, while mirror-like in its reflection of the others' doubts, bore the weight of many stories untold. At his question, the air grew colder, and the fire flickered as if in recognition of the challenge laid before Moses. Yet, the prophet's eyes gleamed with a fierce warmth, an ancient wisdom rising from the depths of his soul. Moses replied, his voice steady as granite, therein lies the secret. Our blessings shall not be revealed in might, but in humility. Trust requires a foundation built not on what has been seen but what is known deep within. His staff gleamed in the firelight, an emblem of hope rather than a tool of power. Murmurs swept through the gathering, some hardening against the message like a stone wall, while others felt the stirrings of possibility growing like an ember. A young mother, cradling her sleeping child, turned her gaze upon Moses, desperation lining her voice. But what if we give our all, put our faith to the test, and still find ourselves empty? What then? Moses stepped closer, his presence a comforting blanket wrapping around the doubters. To put God first, dear one, is not merely to offer your possessions or your hunger, it requires the surrender of fear itself. It is in the face of the void that we discover the fullness of faith. Will you trade your fear for hope, even for a moment? As the stars twinkled overhead, a collective breath held tightly within aching hearts found its way out all at once, a release. Some began to nod, drawn towards the notion of replacing fear with something far greater. Hope began to weave through the space between them, an untamed vine reaching for the light. The elder raised a skeptical eyebrow but felt tugged by the flickering flame of possibility. If we do this, if we truly trust and give, how shall we know if we were heard? Will the heavens remain silent in our hour of need? Moses, seeing the cracks through which light could pour, smiled gently. The answer lies not in grandeur but in the whispers beneath the winds. The blessing may come softly, not always as a flood, but as a gentle rain. Sometimes, it is in the breaking of bread with a neighbor that miracles unfold. Encouraged by his words, courage began to swell in their hearts like rising waters. They looked around and began to gather, sharing their last leftovers, a meager assortment of dried fruits, grains, and a drop of oil. As they tossed their meager offerings into an empty bowl, uncertainty mixed with newfound trust, binding them together in a fragile community. But even in this act of sharing, shadows of doubt lingered just beyond their flickering circle. Would there be enough? Would the heavens respond as Moses claimed? The air felt charged, pregnant with unanswerable questions. As laughter began to echo amidst the friendly chatter, the rising tide of equations sung anew, yet something essential remained unsaid. What awaits on the other side of this leap of faith, when all they have is their trust in the unseen? The stars, now a vast tapestry above, seemed to echo their unvoiced fears and hopes. Would the night yield to dawn, or would they remain adrift in darkness? The flame flickered low, leaving a haunting question: what cost would they pay for the blessings they sought, and would their faith carry them through? As the night deepened, an uneasy calm settled over the assembly. The glowing embers of the fire dwindled, casting elongated shadows that continued to sway like lingering doubts. While the sharing of meager resources sparked a glimmer of hope, uncertainty still weighed heavily in their hearts. They stood at the threshold of the unknown, each faced with the burden of their own beliefs and fears. Moses, however, remained steadfast, sensing that their moment of truth was not yet complete. He cleared his throat, summoning his voice, which now bore an echo of urgency. "Gather close," he urged, "for the hour of reckoning is upon us." It is said that in the silence of the night, the divine whispers to those who seek. The people crowded around, voices hushed, eyes wide with anticipation. Moses began to recount the tales of their ancestors, how their forefather Abraham had been called to leave his homeland, venturing into uncertainty with faith as his only guide, how Joseph had faced betrayal, only to rise from the depths of despair to become a savior of nations. Each step into the unknown was laced with trials, Moses reminded them, yet each trial brought with it a revelation of faith. The struggles we endure are not merely burdens to bear, they are the very fabric of our spiritual tapestry. The questions you harbor now are threads pulled tight, holding together the whole of your experience. In the flicker of firelight, he saw nods of understanding blooming among the faces, embers of hope were rekindling. Yet, a whisper of trepidation flickered in the gathering as they wondered how far their faith could be stretched, and what form God's resolution might take. A young man from the outskirts of the circle spoke up: "Moses, how do we know that the sacrifices we make, these offerings, will carry any worth? What assurance do we have that God is with us, when the crackle of the fire dims, and we are swallowed by shadows?" His doubt was palpable, striking a chord within the hearts of many. Moses paused, the weight of his response heavy in the air. "You speak of assurances. But faith is not born in guarantees, it is nurtured in trust without sight. When last did you listen to the silence? It is in that void, where the world spins and the heart races, that God often speaks most clearly. As he spoke, a sudden breeze swept through the camp, rustling the leaves and carrying a scent of earth and rain. The presence of the unseen felt nearer, almost tangible. An old woman closed her eyes, as if remembering the whispers of her own heart. "All my life, I have felt the divine close when I ventured forth with nothing but my faith, she murmured. But I have also known despair when I sought clear signs. Moses smiled gently. Ah, therein lies the greatness of our journey. For in faith's uncertainty, we are stripped bare, uncovered before God, not seeking demands, but yearning for connection. Even if the skies remain quiet, let our hearts remain open, ready for signs that may come in forms we do not expect. Their exchanges filled the air with a lightness, a burgeoning sense of community fortified by shared burdens. Yet, beneath the surface of camaraderie, the shadow of doubt continued to cloud their visions. Would their combined offerings be enough to provoke a response from the divine? Would the hope ignited in their hearts prove trustworthy? With renewed determination, a handful of them began to expand upon their contributions, gathering more stones for a fire pit, but questions remained like stones in their shoes. What if, after all their efforts and sacrifices, they awoke to emptiness? What if they insisted upon faith, yet faced abandonment? As the fire flickered back to life, illuminating their faces, Moses turned his gaze to the horizon, where the moon hung heavy and luminous, casting an ethereal glow over the landscape. In the midst of peril, we must become the vessels of our own faith, the stewards of our own destinies. Each act of trust, however small, can awaken miracles we cannot yet fathom. Yet, as joy began to take root within the gathering, the night stretched on, a blanket of stars overhead witnessing their struggle for understanding. Their hope remained tempered by the questions that hung in the air, unresolved. What truths lay hidden beneath the surface of their offerings, and what would be asked of them in the pursuit of a faith that truly connects them to the divine? As the glow of the fire painted their surroundings in shades of warmth, the people became more animated, exchanging stories and sharing hopes. Voices, once tinged with fear, now vibrated with a longing for connection both with each other and with the divine. Yet, the underlying tension still loomed, a shadow they could not entirely shake. Moses watched over them with a profound sense of responsibility. He could sense that each flicker of light in their eyes belied deeper questions waiting to surface. The embers crackled as if in agreement, urging him to guide them further into the night's possibilities. Listen closely, he began again, his voice firm yet tender. In many tales of our forebears, there emerged a theme: the blessings that come from the struggles endured are often magnified by the sacrifices made without expectation. He turned towards the young man who had voiced his doubts earlier. You asked for assurance. Consider this: none among us can predict how the divine will respond. What we can do is strive to build a bridge through our actions. The young man nodded, though his brow remained furrowed. But what if our sacrifices go unnoticed? How do we know that our faith won't be in vain? Moses felt the weight of that question, echoing through the hearts gathered around him. It is within our uncertainty that we truly find ourselves, he replied thoughtfully. Perhaps our call is not merely to expect a response but to cultivate a heart that seeks to recognize the responses when they come. Each small act, sharing food, offering kindness, may carry elements of faith that transform the landscape of our lives in ways we cannot yet see. From the fringes of the assembly, an elder woman spoke. Many times, I have asked for signs, only to find them hidden in the simplest of moments: an unexpected kindness, a gust of wind, or even a child's laughter. We may not see the magnitude of our faith until we are willing to embrace the small miracles along the way. Her words lingered in the air, a gentle reminder that the journey was not solely about the destination, but also about the richness found in the path itself. Moses felt the collective heartbeat of hope resounding through the circle as murmurs of agreement spread like ripples in water. Still, we stand upon a precipice, a voice interjected from the back, a woman whose face bore the marks of hardship. With our offerings, we must grapple with the very real fear of abandonment. What if we are left standing in silence after all our efforts? Moses turned his full attention to her. In our walk of faith, the echo of silence can often be the most profound call. It challenges us to deepen our connection, to search harder, to listen more carefully. Imagine what may unfold if we lean into that silence, if we remain steadfast in our faith amidst uncertainty. As the conversation swirled around them, the air thick with both commitment and questioning, the stars above twinkled like distant echoes of hope, reminders of promises once made. The assembly exchanged glances, an unspoken agreement hanging above them. A young woman leaned forward, her determination shining through her vulnerability. Can we make a pact, then? To cultivate trust together, to nourish our faith as one? No matter the outcome, let us stand united, expressing our offerings not just for ourselves, but for each other and for the divine. Moses smiled, heartened by her courage. A beautiful pact indeed. But remember, even as we gather, the journey does not guarantee that we will find easy answers. Faith is an evolving relationship, one that demands commitment even when the skies appear barren. The circle breathed in unity, an awakening spirit beginning to spread like the dawn breaking the horizon. Yet, beneath their newfound resolve remained the trembling undercurrent of uncertainty. Would their pact withstand the trials to come? How would they navigate the complexities of faith without the assurance of visible rewards? As they succumbed to thoughts of the night ahead, Moses raised his gaze once more to the expansive heavens, contemplating the mystery that shrouded their journey. What unseen powers lay dormant, waiting for the right moment to emerge? Would that moment dawn with their earnestness, or would the silence yield a different chapter in the unfolding story of their wanderings? The embers glowed brighter as the night deepened, illuminating the faces of those around the fire. They remained in the circle, each grappling with the weight of their collective commitment, binding themselves not just to one another but to the divine mystery that beckoned them onward. Moses sensed a shift in the air, an electric anticipation thrumming through their midst. The conversation had carved paths of vulnerability, revealing fears and desires that had previously lingered unspoken. Yet, as stars twinkled above, he knew they were on the brink of something uncharted, much like the lands they were destined to traverse. Let us take a moment, Moses said, raising his hands, quieting the murmurs of the assembly. In the depths of our hearts, let us offer our intentions to the divine. What do we seek in this sacred pact we have formed? One by one, individuals closed their eyes, whispering fervent prayers, while some remained silent, absorbing the energy flowing around them. The aroma of sacrifice filled the air as some offered the last bits of their provisions as an act of trust, letting go of the very thing that promised sustenance, and as they offered, a sudden chill swept through the circle, causing many to shudder. The fire flickered, casting uneven shadows that danced ominously around them. In that compelling moment, a voice, unexpected and powerful, broke through the quietude. Who dares to approach the altar of trust without understanding the weight it carries? The voice thundered, shattering the delicate stillness. All heads turned toward the source, apprehensive yet intrigued. From the shadows stepped a figure, cloaked in hues of twilight. Their face was obscured, but the essence of authority radiated from them. I am a messenger, the figure proclaimed, their tone both beautiful and terrifying. And I bring a revelation for those who seek to put the divine first. That a gasp reverberated through the circle. Moses stepped forward, confronting the stranger. What does this mean? What revelation do you bring? His heart raced with a mix of fear and compelled curiosity. The voice softened, and within the cloak emerged a radiant light. Only when you risk everything for the divine can the floodgates of blessings truly rise. Your efforts are not alone. They are woven into a tapestry of divine purpose. What must we endure to receive this? A young man asked, vulnerability etched across his features. To risk, came the reply, steady and unyielding. To face your deepest fears and lay down not only your provisions but your very understanding of what sustains you. For in that sacrifice, the hidden blessings will indeed be unveiled. Moses's mind whirled as he absorbed the weight of the words. He recognized that this journey would not just be a physical struggle, it would summon their very souls to grapple with the profound uncertainties of faith. And if we risk and find that we remain unfulfilled? He questioned, a slight tremor in his voice. The figure took a step closer, almost tangible now, the light illuminating their path. The essence of faith is found in the questions more than in the answers. Trust the journey, for not all that is given appears as bounty at first glance. What seems barren may yield the richest soil when the rains of grace arrive. You may find what you least expect is precisely what you need. As the figure faded back into the night, Moses stood rooted in thought, contemplating the message that had been etched into his heart. The fire had quieted, and the assembly remained in hushed awe as they processed the significance of what they had encountered. In that silence, underlying contemplation began to brew. Would they have the courage to risk their comfort for the sake of unseen blessings? Could they truly embrace the unknown, allowing faith to shape their journey in ways they could not yet imagine? A realization dawned within Moses, mingling with the gravity of the momentous sense that their true testing was not merely to endure discomfort but to redefine their vision of abundance itself. As they gathered their thoughts, he posed a gentle question into the quiet night: are we prepared to let go of what we believe we need to uncover what might be waiting for us instead? The embers continued to flicker, casting a warm glow against the cool pre-dawn air, as Moses and the assembly lingered in contemplation. Each heart was probing the depths of the revelation they had just received, considering how to place their trust in the unseen. As the stars began to fade into the budding light of dawn, a renewed sense of purpose filled the circle. Women and men exchanged glances that spoke of determination, yet beneath this resolve was an undercurrent of fear. The weight of what had been asked of them cast a long shadow over their spirits, shrouding their hearts with uncertainty. Moses sensed the hesitation and gathered the group closer, inviting them to share their thoughts. What is it that stirs within you after the voice of the divine has spoken? What fears rise to the surface as we stand on the precipice of this journey? An older woman stepped forward, her hands trembling slightly as they clasped around her shawl. I have walked with burdens many years, Moses. I fear that the losses I bear will overshadow any hope of gain. Can one truly find joy in sacrifice when the scars run so deep? Her voice drifted upward, fragile yet resonant. Another voice, younger and filled with rising intensity, responded, but what if in our yielding, we discover strength we never knew existed? Is it not our sacrifice that may blossom into a garden of dreams unforeseen? The firelight caught the glimmer of determination in his eyes. Moses watched as a sentiment echoed through the gathering, a shared understanding that resonated deeply. Their hearts yearned for transformation, yet the path before them brimmed with claustrophobic uncertainty. He felt an urge to guide them further into the mystery, much as they were being drawn toward the journey they had embarked upon. Perhaps, my friends, we must learn to see through the fog of our fears. Each step taken in faith lays the stones toward revelation. As the sun peeked over the horizon, changing the very fabric of night into day, a peculiar warmth enveloped them, igniting their spirits with renewed vigor. Moses knelt before the fire, laying his hands upon the ground as if to connect with the earth that cradled their existence. Let us reflect upon our roots. What can we glean from the stories of those who've traversed the valleys of doubt before us? The assembly began to share tales passed down through generations, stories of trials, perseverance, and most importantly, transformation that sprouted from the ashes of loss. Each narrative wove a richer tapestry that revealed the intrinsic connection of their journeys, illustrating how surrender birthed miracles just as the sea parted for the Israelites, offering liberation from chains of oppression. As the final story echoed into the early morning, an inexplicable aura enveloped the group, a palpable pulse of shared faith igniting their spirits. Together, they ventured deeper into the covenant they now held, grappling with the meaning of a world viewed through the lens of trust. Moses then took a step back, looking out over the assembly, a bead of sweat trickling down his brow as he realized this moment was a gift, a preparation for the challenges that lay ahead. In our collective fear, we might just find avenues of growth. Can each of us embrace the concept of abundance as not just what we gain, but what we dare to lose? With anticipation hanging thick in the air, he raised his hands once more, this time inviting silence to envelop them. Contemplation settled into the hearts of those present as they held their breaths, pondering the mystery of sacrifice and its significance within the divine tapestry. As the sun rose to full brilliance, illuminating their faces with warmth and light, an unanswered question lingered in the stillness. What extraordinary blessings might we uncover if we choose to relinquish our tight grip on comfort and embrace the radical trust that propels us into the unknown? The sun climbed higher in the sky, casting a golden hue upon the encampment, yet even as warmth enveloped them, the air was filled with tension and uncertainty. The assembly, invigorated yet apprehensive, found strength in one another's presence, each heart confronting an uncharted journey that lay before them. In that moment of reflection, a soft rustle caressed the edges of the gathering, as if the very earth beneath them breathed in their collective anticipation. Moses, acutely aware of the delicate balance between hope and fear, decided to lead them further into contemplation of their covenant. We stand at the threshold of promise, he began, but what does it mean for our hearts to be open to the profound mystery of the divine? As he spoke, a gentle wind swept through the camp, carrying with it the whispers of those who had tread the paths of faith before them. Some within the assembly gasped as they felt the stirring of something greater than themselves enveloping them, while others remained skeptical, clinging tightly to their doubts. Amidst this tension, a man stepped forward. His brow was furrowed, eyes fixated downward. "Moses," he called softly, "every tale we've heard, every moment of surrender, what if they fail us? What if we venture into unknown lands only to encounter peril rather than promise?" Moses studied the man, his heart heavy with the weight of such a question. "Fear is a companion on this journey, my brother. But is it not in the depths of our darkest moments that we discover the brilliance of light? What might our fears reveal to us if we dare to confront them?" Another voice rang out, this one stronger, filled with defiance. "What if our fears are simply shadows of our potential? Might we, in seeking to escape them, cast aside the greatness we are meant to achieve? Is it not vulnerability that ultimately paves the way for extraordinary blessings?" With those words, a shift pulsed through the gathering. The atmosphere thickened with unspoken realizations, as if they had been on the cusp of understanding all along. Met by this wave of clarity, Moses felt the echoes of sacred wisdom reverberating within him. Perhaps our greatest secret lies not in seeking answers, but in embracing the questions we carry, our fears, our desires, our doubts, and allowing them to guide us into deeper faith. As he spoke, a sudden stillness descended upon the assembly. In their hearts, new ideas began to take root, challenging the entrenched norms of their prior beliefs. They began to discover the paradox of trust. The more one relinquishes control, the more room is created for blessings greater than could have ever been envisioned. Then, as if summoned by the collective energy of their thoughts and fears, the clouds above parted, revealing an azure sky. A soft warmth enveloped them, whispering promises into their very souls. Some among the assembly looked skyward, sensing an invitation, a call to rise above their circumstances and to embrace the uncertainty with open arms, and then, an unexpected sound tinkled through the air, reverberating down the valley. It was the laughter of children playing in a nearby grove, innocent and free. This sound, pure and unencumbered, struck a chord deep within them, the joy of surrendering to the present moment, undisturbed by the shadows of the future. Moses turned his gaze back upon the assembly, a spark igniting in his heart. Could it be, my friends, that the wildness of our journey lies not in the challenges that await but in how we choose to perceive those challenges? How might our lives change if we view the unknown not as a threat, but as a canvas for possibility? Their faces softened as they contemplated his words, each individual a thread in a broader tapestry of faith and community. A stirring sense of hope blossomed among them, mingling with their fears and uncertainties. In their hearts, they began to accept that the journey towards liberation needed space for both pain and joy. Yet, as anticipatory silence settled once more, a question simmered beneath the surface, waiting for resolution. What hidden gifts might be unveiled if we began to trust that every challenge could be the very key to our transformation? As the sun dipped toward the horizon, casting long shadows across the camp, Moses felt a palpable stirring within the hearts of the assembly. The laughter of children had faded into the gentle rustle of leaves, leaving behind an echo of innocence that lingered in the minds of the weary travelers. It was in this soft tranquility that Moses sensed a deepening of their understanding, a shift that beckoned them to embrace the deeper mysteries of the covenant they were embarking upon. "Moses." A woman named Miriam called out, her voice filled with a mixture of wonder and trepidation. "As we stand on this threshold, are we to ignore the pain we've endured? Do we cast aside our burdens as if they are mere shadows? What of the cries that still ring in our ears?" Moses considered her words, feeling the weight of history resting heavily upon his shoulders. "To acknowledge pain is not to be shackled by it," he replied, "but to understand it as part of the path. Each tear we shed has shaped the resilience within us. Consider this: what if our scars are not marks of defeat but signposts of strength? Might they guide us toward healing and wisdom?" Frowning, one of the elders, a man named Aaron, interjected, "But what if the pain becomes too great? How do we sustain our faith when the journey seems relentless?" A murmur of agreement rippled through the assembly, reflecting a collective apprehension that had not yet been articulated. The atmosphere felt charged with unspoken fears, as each person wrestled silently with their inner turmoil. Moses raised his hands, inviting silence. Our faith will be tested, that much is certain. We will face moments where darkness seems to veil the promise before us. But in those instances, we must remember that the divine does not abandon us. Instead, we are invited to seek refuge in the stillness of our souls. It is in the very act of surrender that we may perceive the guiding light. With each word, a sense of hope began to gather like the clouds rolling in to adorn the sky. It became increasingly clear that their journey was about more than a mere destination, it was a call to transformation. He continued, perhaps the true secret lies within our collective hearts, intertwined like the roots of an ancient tree, drawing strength from one another. As the assembly began to ponder these thoughts, a vibrant color blossomed on the horizon. The fiery hues of sunset danced across the sky, symbolizing the promise of rejuvenation. Every soul present could feel the heartbeat of the land beneath them, unyielding yet nurturing, a reminder of the covenant they had with the Almighty. Just then, a whisper seemed to flutter from the heavens, pulling at the edges of their consciousness. Moses looked up, sensing something profound unfolding. Can you perceive it? He asked. The sacred tapestry of our existence, the threads of joy woven alongside sorrow, laughter intertwined with tears. Each binding moment serves its purpose, revealing a grander design. Suddenly, amidst the embrace of this unfolding beauty, an elderly woman with silver hair, known for her quiet wisdom, spoke. Moses, as we chase forward into the unknown, how do we remember the blessings in the midst of chaos? How do we ensure that gratitude takes root even when our surroundings threaten to overwhelm us? Her question hung in the air like fragrant incense, inviting contemplation. The gathering now faced an unsettling yet exciting vulnerability, to consciously hold gratitude during trials and tribulations. Moses took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. Gratitude, my friends, is the sacred soil from which abundance sprouts. It does not negate our pain but offers us perspective. As we move forward, let us practice seeing our struggles as chapters in a larger story, one that brings us closer to the divine. The assembly stood in silent reflection, the colors of the sunset mirrored in their hearts, igniting a desire to embrace whatever awaited them with open hands. Yet, even amongst this newfound hope, a deeper question remained unanswered in their souls: what costs may we unknowingly incur on our journey toward transformation, and are we ready to embrace them, loss and all? As the colors of twilight deepened into indigo and stars began to twinkle in the heavens, a hush fell over the assembly. The last remnants of daylight lingered, weaving a magical illusion around the camp where families huddled close, awaiting clarification of their uncertain fate. Moses, standing tall at the forefront, felt the weight of their collective gaze. Tonight, he began, his voice steady and clear, we are not merely wandering through a paradox of dusk and dawn. We stand at the convergence of history and destiny. The stars glimmer above not as mere lights but as witnesses to our pilgrimage, a journey that stretches far beyond our understanding. His words resonated within the crowd, but uncertainty still curled like tendrils of fog around their hearts. The echoes of their past-off bondage, sorrow, and neglect were not easily shaken. Moses could see it in their eyes, a quiet storm of hope fighting against despair. Imagine if these stars are a message from the divine. He continued, waving a hand toward the vast canopy. What if, among these distant worlds, there lies a reminder that we are not alone? Each twinkle could signify a whisper of encouragement, urging us to take the next step. As he spoke, a small boy, no more than 7, stood up. His wide, innocent eyes reflected the myriad of stars. Moses, where do we go from here? How do we find our way? A shimmering silence enveloped the assembly, and the weight of the boy's question hung in the night air, echoing the thoughts of every soul present. Moses knelt down so that he might meet the boy's gaze directly. We go forward, my child. But our journey will not just define our feet, it will shape our hearts. Each step will be guided by the love we nurture for one another, and the love we cultivate for the divine. A woman near the fire chuckled softly, breaking the tense stillness. Love sounds lovely, Moses, but what if our hearts are still heavy with the stones of the past, laden with mistrust and fear? Moses nodded solemnly, recognizing the wisdom in her doubt. Indeed, these stones can bridge our hearts and minds to the suffering we bear. However, our weight does not need to crush us, instead, it can lead us to a sacred awareness. For every stone cast upon our path, there exists an equal chance to thrust forth a seed of faith. The elders murmured in agreement, reflecting on the transformative power of faith. Yet, the woman pressed on, and what of anger? What of the rightful fury we hold for those who have wronged us? Can we release those burdens? Moses straightened, the flickering flames illuminating his features. Ah, anger is a double-edged sword. It can ignite passion or incite destruction. It is born from the longing for justice, yes, but unless it is tempered with understanding and forgiveness, it will consume us. Our liberation relies on laying these stones at the feet of compassion. A ripple of contemplation flowed through the crowd, drawing their focus to the gentle crackling of the fire before them, mapping the shadows dancing alongside. But then an elder, with hands as gnarled as the branches of an ancient tree, raised his voice. Moses, you speak of faith and love, yet what if we find ourselves asking where the divine is in our struggles? Where are the blessings that were promised? Moses' heart fluttered at such words, feeling the tension sprouting anew. To seek the presence of God in our difficulties is a fundamental question. Sometimes we may feel abandoned amidst trials, yet it is in those moments that the roots of faith deepen most profoundly. Can we not see that the night sky often offers the clearest path to understanding when darkness cloaks our sights? With that thought, the assembly hung on his every word, their hearts leaning into this notion of celestial grace amid suffering. Moses stood again, surveying the multitude, and as the fire crackled with new life, a profound stillness settled. As we gather our strength for what lies ahead, let us embrace the mystery of this journey. We must remain curious, allowing our hearts to grapple and grow in faith. Together. Even the questions we bear possess the potential to birth revelations. The crowd nodded, the flickering torchlights drawing reflections on their faces, mirroring the constellations above. Yet, despite the buoy of hope encircling them, the unease lingered still, threading its way through their collective consciousness. If we are called to embrace the uncharted future, can we trust the path laid before us even amidst the unfamiliar, while understanding what it demands of us? As dawn broke over the wilderness, the golden rays of light shimmered across the faces of the weary travelers. Each reflection held a story of struggle, and within those stories lay the dawning of faith, a seed waiting for the nourishment of trust. Moses, aware of the transformative moment knitting together their journeys, felt a stirring in the depths of his soul. He would draw upon the presence of the divine as he prepared to lead them into the uncharted realms of their destiny. Rise up, he called to the assembly, his voice rich with authority and compassion. Today is not just another day, it is a moment of reckoning. The choices we make now will shape the very mosaic of our lives. As their eyes rested on him, filled with both longing and trepidation, he continued, yesterday's sacrifices have laid the groundwork for today's miracles. As we step forward, let us carry the trust we have cultivated into the unknown. The fire that had flickered through the night slowly dimmed, casting a warm glow around the circle. In that intimate light, Moses could see the manifestation of doubt and hope mingling in their eyes. Each person stood on the cusp of an awakening, teetering between fear and possibility. Close your eyes, he instructed softly, inviting them into a sacred moment of reflection. Breathe deep and call to mind all that weighs upon your heart. What burdens have shaped your journey? What shadows have hindered the light of faith? As the assembly took a collective breath, a hush surrounded them, thick yet sacred. The gentle rustle of the trees, the distant chirping of the waking birds, seemed to affirm their prayers, a symphony of nature whispering promise. And in that stillness, Moses continued, now, with your heart open, I invite you to release those burdens into the hands of the divine. Let the very act of surrender become the catalyst for transformation. In that fleeting moment, an ethereal presence enveloped them. The air buzzed with energy as they released their fears, the ghostly doubts that had clung stubbornly to their hearts dissipating into the early morning mist. Each individual felt the weight of their struggles being lifted, replaced by the fluttering warmth of hope renewed. As clarity washed over them like the golden light bathing the valley, Moses urged them to open their eyes. Look around you, he beckoned, for you are no longer alone in your ventures. Together, we stand at the threshold of promise. Those words hung in the air, sparking flickers of understanding. A young child, emboldened by the moment, exclaimed, Moses, do you believe that if we trust, we can find food in the next valley? That there is abundance waiting for us? Moses knelt before the child, his heart swelling with urgency and fervor. Indeed, my dear one. To put God first is to step out in faith. It is to believe in the goodness that awaits us, even when we cannot see it yet. The unseen is often where our greatest revelations lie. We must walk forth ready to embrace whatever gifts the universe has in store. That spirit of anticipation breathed life into the assembly. Moses breathed deep, feeling the energy crackle like electricity. Without warning, a shadow passed overhead, drawing their collective gaze upward. In that moment, a flock of birds soared across the azure sky, weaving patterns of freedom and possibility. The symbolism resonated deep within the hearts of the weary travelers, awakening something dormant, an unyielding belief in hope's promise. Look at them! Shouted Miriam, her face brightening. They are free. Just as we are destined to be if we let go of our shackles. Yes. Moses affirmed, gratitude swelling within him. We must let the winds of change fill our sails. When we accept the divine's invitation, we uncover the power to transform our lives. With renewed vigor, the assembly began to move, as if wrenched from an ancient spell. They gathered their belongings, sharing stories and laughter, each voice weaving into the fabric of their shared journey. Yet, in the unfolding passion, there arose a voice fraught with doubt. An elder, burdened with scars of the past, frowned as he approached Moses. And what of the emptiness that may greet us? Will the path we choose yield nothing? Moses met his gaze, searching for the right words. Emptiness is not the absence of provision, it is a canvas awaiting paint. In surrendering our need for certainty, we allow the wonders of the divine to spill forth. Each challenge is but a brushstroke. Every hesitation can become the fertile ground for future abundance. A flicker of light ignited in the elder's eyes, and nodding slowly, he walked back to join the assembly, hope piercing the veil of skepticism. As the sun continued to rise, brilliant and unwavering, Moses led the people down the path that lay ahead of them, a path unmarked but abundant with possibilities. Gathering together as one united force, they stepped beyond the threshold that had once confined them, ready to claim the blessings that awaited, and as they journeyed into the horizon, a resonant truth bloomed alive within each soul: the path forward is never truly solitary. With the blessings found in vulnerability and the strength of collective faith, they had embarked upon a journey where the invisible threads of purpose intertwined with divine promise. The mountains echoed their steps, the rivers sang their stories, and in each heartbeat of creation, the divine whispered, "You are not alone." In this powerful awakening, the journey became imbued with meaning not only for those wandering within it but for generations yet to come. Faith, it seemed, was not merely a destination, but an ever-unfolding revelation born from courage, trust, and community, a light that would never falter, even amid the shadows. Thus, they marched onward into destiny, into joy, into the divine abundance that awaited them. The final chapter of their journey held the secret of faith, revealed through community, a profound truth echoing across the ages, inviting all souls to experience the transformative power of putting God first.